Hello and welcome everyone to the CSLP 2026 Unearth a Story webinar. My name is Beth Yates and I'm the Children's Consultant from the Indiana State Library's Professional Development Office. I'll be the host, presenter, and question moderator for you today. A few announcements. To register for other webinars or other trainings available from the Professional Development Office, please see the Indiana State Library's events calendar, which can be found on our website at www.in.gov/library. And then it's under Services for Libraries. This session is 1 hour, so you're eligible to receive 1 LEU for this presentation. If you're watching a recording of this webinar, instructions on how to obtain your LEU are in the video's description on YouTube. Or you can also find those instructions on the Indiana State Library's continuing education site under LEU policies. But in short, when you watch a recording, an administrator at your library should create a certificate for you, as they're the ones who can verify that you watched. One more note, if you are from another state, you're not from Indiana, and you stumbled upon this recording, you're going to need to contact your own state library to discuss whether or not you have access to the CSLP materials. And you can check the CSLP website to learn who your state rep is under membership information and then state and territory representatives. Okay, I think we are ready to get started. So let's do this. My name is Beth Yates, and I'm the Children's Consultant at the Indiana State Library in our Professional Development Office, as I said. I have been at the State Library for about 10 years now, and before that I worked for 12 years at the public library, or in a public library, as a children's librarian and a department manager. And during that time, my library used CSLP for many of those years, so I definitely have a long history with CSLP. And then I currently serve as the Indiana State Representative for CSLP, and I'll explain what that means in just a few minutes. All right, here's our agenda for this webinar. I'm going to be focusing primarily on sharing information and resources that will hopefully help you to plan for summer 2026. I will not be covering program ideas in this webinar, but will share a few locations where you can find program ideas and other resources to kind of educate you on Unearth a Story related topics. This is also a good time for me to mention that I did create a resource website, and so I have linked to all of the pages and resources, websites and resources that I will be talking about today on that document. And that link to that document will be posted along with the webinar recording on the State Library's archive trainings page, So just a heads up that that is available for you. Okay, so we're going to start out talking about the basics of summer reading programs. And I know that many of you have been doing this for just years and years, but we always have new folks joining us, and I just like to make sure that they get all the information. First of all, what is CSLP exactly? The Collaborative Summer Library Program is exactly that. It's a collaborative. It's a group of 40 states and U.S. territories that work together to develop the theme, slogan, artwork, and all of the other materials supplied by the program. CSLP is membership based, and most often state libraries are the ones who are paying the membership fees for the public libraries in their states, and that is the case here in Indiana too. So the Indiana State Library pays for your membership so that your library can utilize the program and artwork if you choose to. It's certainly not required that you use the theme each year, but hopefully it can make your lives a lot easier if you do, so it is there as a resource if you need it. And then each state or territory has a state representative, and that person manages the program in their state by distributing information, the manual code, and here in Indiana by offering trainings like this. That person is usually someone from the state library, and so that is why I am your state rep. And I also take your feedback back to the organization. So CSLP is a nonprofit. It's run almost completely by volunteers. They have 4 paid employees, an executive director, an administrative person, a financial person, and the manual editor who also does social media now. But that's really it. And those last 2 are actually much more recent additions. So CSLP definitely needs their volunteers to assist with running things. Um, those volunteers are often state reps like me, who usually work at state libraries, as I said, but we have lots of volunteers at the Collaborative Summer Library Program from public libraries all across the country, and everything is run by committee. So here is a list of all of those committees that CSLP is currently utilizing. And we need you. So if you see something here that you have a talent or a passion for, consider volunteering. Every late summer and early fall, so usually August, September, CSLP will open the committees to new volunteers. They'll do a call out for volunteers. And when that happens, I always share that out on the listservs. So keep your eyes peeled starting in August if you're interested in volunteering. And in the meantime, I am happy to answer questions about time commitment, work cycle, or anything else that you might be curious about. Just one other note when it comes to the committees and volunteering, some of them have some prerequisites, some of them have much more narrowed scopes, and so they might not need as many volunteers. Other committees tend to utilize a lot more volunteers, like vendor traditionally has quite a few. Sometimes the manual committees, especially the children's age one, can be a fairly large committee. So just keep that all in mind. There is a chance that they won't need you for a specific committee, but by and large, they're fairly open to anyone who is interested. So again, just let me know if you are ever interested or have questions. Oh, and by the way, we have 2 Hoosiers playing important roles right now. Actually, 3 if you count me. Um, first of all, Rachel Milburn from the Frankfort Public Library here in Indiana is still, I think this is her 3rd year as the theme and slogan co-chair. So that's really exciting. That theme and slogan committee is the one that helps to sort through all of the survey responses of ideas, of slogan ideas and theme ideas for future years, and then they orchestrate and run the selection process. So very important role. And then Abby Chuman, who works here at the Indiana State Library in our Talking Books and Braille Library, is actually the president now. She just became president on January 1st, 2026. And then, of course, I am the membership chair, actually, and I have been for a little bit, and I'm a former president of CSLP. So we always love it when Indiana folks are participating because that means it gives us more opportunities to share our feedback and our input with the committee and the organization as a whole, too. All right. Now that you understand, hopefully, what CSLP is, let's talk more specifically and locally about what the requirements for summer reading are here in Indiana. First of all, here is the Indiana Code, and you might be surprised to know that there is just one sentence in there about summer reading, just one. It says that a library system shall offer a children's reading program for a minimum of 6 weeks at each fixed location annually. So, first of all, excuse me, I do just want to pause here to kind of make sure everyone is clear on what exactly summer reading is. Because we call it a summer reading program, right? And so sometimes people get those, if they're brand new to libraries, they might get those a little confused with our individual events that we do regularly, right? You know, like a story time and art program. Those are also called programs, but this is different. Generally speaking, summer reading program is an overarching multi-week, usually themed, incentivized reading program. And by that, I mean that participants are rewarded in some way for reading. Now, the rewards could be anything. They could be toys and chatskis. They could be a community prize, like maybe starting a video game collection if everyone hits a certain community-wide reading goal. It really could be anything, anywhere in between those two things also. So this is as opposed to, again, those individual events or programs that we do year round that happen once, or maybe they're a small series, but it's not the same thing. So hopefully, I know it can be a little confusing, especially again, if you're brand new and you're not used to all the terminology, but that is usually what we're referring to. So it's not quite the same. It's a multi-week program, summer reading. All right, so going back to what the code says, let's break it down just a little bit. First of all, when they say fixed location, they mean a branch, a building, right? And then it says that libraries should offer a children's reading program. And in this case, children's is generally assumed to mean school age. So a school age program is the minimum that you should do. Now, I highly recommend offering your program for all ages if you can, birth through adults, if you have the capacity to do that at your library. There are so many benefits for each of those age groups. But, at the very least, you have to do it for school age kids. Now, looking again, interestingly, you might have noticed it doesn't actually say the word summer in there. If you scan the whole sentence, no summer, it does not say that. This was removed a few years ago to make it a little more flexible for libraries, as some communities were moving to more year-round school schedules. So you can really offer your reading program at any time of the year that works best for your community. I mean, most libraries do still opt for summer because that really does make the most sense most places. But that, if it doesn't make sense for your area, if you feel like June is the busiest time, then, maybe that is what you do. Finally, it says 6 weeks annually. First of all, 6 weeks is the minimum. You can always do more, but they are not consecutive weeks. So you can break up those 6 weeks if that works better in your area also. So not only do you not have to do it in summer, but you can also break up the 6 weeks if you need to. So this is where if you just want to do it in June because that's your busiest time, you could do 4 weeks then, and then maybe you make up the other 2 weeks some other time of year, winter reading, fall break, spring break, that sort of thing. But you have that flexibility, and the most important thing is to take a look at what works best for your library. Okay, so let's talk about why we do summer reading in the first place, right? It's a good idea, I think, to always know why you're doing any program in the library. And because summer reading stretches over so many weeks and we spend so much staff time planning and oftentimes so much money on the program, it's especially important to step back each year and to ask ourselves why we do it all. And that reason might vary from library to library. It might be related to that kind of traditional summer slide idea that we can help to prevent the summer slide, and it might not. Either way is okay, but it's important to have that discussion. It's also really good to have goals connected to that why. So you not only know why you are doing it, but you also have goals that are connected to the why. So why are you trying to accomplish, what are you trying to accomplish, with your library summer reading program? And by this, I don't mean statistics. I actually don't mean, that goal that we often have of growing our program each year. I think reaching more people is great. So I'm not saying you shouldn't have that goal, but I do want folks to step beyond just thinking about numbers and statistics and think kind of more about impact. What impact are you hoping to have in your community, and what kind of impact can you have with your summer reading program? One great thing to do is to look at your strategic plan, so are you trying to reach a certain population in your area? Or maybe your strategic plan has a focus on creating lifelong readers and creating a sense of community. No matter what your strategic plan is, how can you tailor the summer reading program to serve those goals? Those are the questions that you should be asking. So I want to encourage you to get together with anyone else who plans summer at your library to talk about these things. Meet with your colleagues, have a discussion about your summer goals. Here are some of the questions you might ask as you reflect. Again, for instance, maybe your strategic plan says that your library wants to help your community improve literacy rates. So tying this overarching strategic plan goal to summer reading, you might then be able to look at ways to partner with schools to increase participation amongst lower elementary age kids. If that's your goal, then you can really focus on ways to do that. Maybe you even work with the school to make sure the kids who are participating are recognized. And maybe you keep an eye on what the iRead scores say at the end of next year, kind of try to see if there are any trends. If you get a rise in participation, does that also translate to any sort of rise at all in reading scores? Now, obviously, you're not reaching everyone in your community, so it might not have a massive impact, but it could have a small impact, at least on those individual kids. And an impact on an individual kid is still incredibly impactful for that child. Other things you can talk about and consider together, are, again, back to your audiences. Is there anyone who you are not reaching, both with summer reading and just generally with your library services? And if so, how can you identify them? If you're saying that you want to grow your program and have more numbers next year, increase your statistics, who are you going to increase them with? Who are you going to reach out to? How are you going to make that happen? And then finally, I think it's always a really good idea if you add any summer services to take a look and consider, what can you either get rid of, or more importantly, what is no longer serving your library or your community. We tend to do things the same every year because that's the way we're comfortable with it. We think it is working well enough that way. But times, they are changing, things change around us. So it's really important to kind of stay up on the actual needs of our community and what we can do to best serve them. And that might mean that there are some things we have traditionally done in the past that we no longer need to do. So just take a look at those sorts of things, have those conversations, and see what you come up with. Okay, so one more thing in this section of the presentation, for those of you who are brand new to planning summer, or perhaps you're doing it all on your own, I did create a tutorial a few years ago that covers some of the basics, things to consider, where to get started, stuff like that. It's really for folks who've never done it much at all. Maybe they're fairly new to libraries and find themselves in a position where they have to start planning this program. So it can at least get you started down that path. And that tutorial is linked from the resource page that I will have posted along with the recording. All right, let's move on now to some updates about the program itself. So first of all, access to the CSLP programming manual is online again this year. You do need a code to access the online manual and artwork, and that code changes every year. So I did send the codes to directors via email back in October, and then I have also shared out multiple times a form on the listservs so that individual Indiana Public Library staffers could request that form from me as needed. And just a side note about listservs, if you are not sure what I'm talking about, but you're a librarian in Indiana, the Indiana State Library does maintain several different listservs for Indiana Public Library staff and non-public library staff, academic and school as well. But You can sign up for those, and I send out all of my information about upcoming trainings and also information about things like summer reading. So I highly recommend that you sign up for one of them. There's In Child Prog, INCHILDPROG, that is for children's programmers. There's Yappers, which is the teen programming, YAPPERS, get it, YA for young adult. And then there's InPubLib, which is Indiana Public Libraries, and that's kind of the general public library listserv, and I tend to send things out to all three of those lists. If you have any questions about that, you can always email me directly, and I'm happy to get you hooked up on one of the listservs. So again, I did send this out, and I've sent it out to lots of folks from that form as well, so hopefully you have it if you need it, but if not, you can always email me directly to request it. We are not going to cover how to navigate that online manual today because I created another tutorial. This one walks you through accessing the online manual and hits kind of some of the highlights, some of the most popular things you might find in there. I have a resource sheet. Again, that resource sheet, I will post that tutorial link on there as well. The CSLP online store is open already and is shipping things out. And this is your annual reminder that it is recommended that you order as soon as possible if there are specific things that you are wanting to order, because sometimes things do sell out. Currently, the most relevant date, as it is January of 2026, is the February 1st deadline. You have to order by February 1st in order to receive your items by April 1st. And then just a heads up that the latest you can order to receive your items by June 1st is April 1st. So April 1st is kind of that hard cutoff that you'll definitely want to hit, if not sooner. FYI, the store can do some custom printing for many of those branded Unearth a Story items. And the t-shirts especially are an item that are commonly custom printed. They can add your library's name to a shirt, for instance, on the sleeve or perhaps on the back. So under the shop tab, you go to custom orders to learn more. And again, I recommend requesting this earlier rather than later because it might take a little extra time to get that set up and printed. If you have any questions about those custom orders, I recommend that you call the customer service number for CSLP, and they should be able to help you out with any questions that you have. And then one last thing about this, I like to mention, it's wonderful if you can choose to purchase your branded items, the ones that say Unearth a Story, with the artwork especially from the store. Just keep in mind that CSLP artwork and slogans are trademarked, so technically anyone selling those branded items on Amazon are doing so illegally. So just keep that in mind. But more importantly, the sales from the store do go back into supporting the next program year. So, this is a nonprofit. They're not in it to make money. They are in it to sustain the program so they can offer it next year too. So just keep that in mind. Of course, I understand sometimes libraries have to do what they have to do, but I just wanted to make sure that y'all were aware of that. Okay, let's look at the artwork. Let's start with the posters for 2026. Here are the first two, and our artwork this year is by an artist named Tom Bonson. He lives in Bristol, England, and he has illustrated a handful of picture books that were published over there. CSLP's graphic design studio is methodical, and they worked with him to create our posters and our spot art this year. And these are the two I would consider to be the most kid-centric, right? Most kid-focused, kid-friendly. And then here are the other two posters. And I think the one on the left is definitely the most kind of teen and adult focused or friendly. But they're all fun and bright. And then the other thing I like to make sure you can see is that there's something you can spy in all four posters. There's a little something in there. Let me go back if I can. Oh, let me go back. It's Digby, our blueberry triceratops. Digby is our official mascot for the summer, and he even comes in a stress ball squishy form. And there's a file to 3D print him in the online manual now. So it's actually on the things that have been added since the online manual was published, because someone created that for us. So, but it is in there. If you can't find it, let me know and I can help you dig it out. But it's pretty cool. He's so cute. I'm a big fan of Digby. All right, let's talk resources for program planning now. I have mentioned several times there will be a resource sheet that will be available to you. It'll be posted on the archive training page with the recording. And so that's great. It will be there. However, I also want to show you where you can find that link on our website. That way you can get to it yourself sometime if you cannot manage to find the archive training page. Okay, so if you go to the state library's website, so you can just Google Indiana State Library, and then you select Services for Libraries, which is on the left-hand side under in that menu that's always there on the left. So you select that, it brings up this page, Services for Libraries. And then you'll see these two columns in the middle towards the top of the screen, Professional Development and Library Development. And then under Professional Development, you will find a link called Resources for Librarians Serving Youth. And that is where you'll find all kinds of CSLP links. And you might say to yourself, but Beth, why is it under the section for serving youth when you just said that summer reading should be for all ages? And to that I would say you're absolutely right. It is for all ages. However, I'm the youth services person and I'm in charge of summer reading for the state library, so it's under my section of the site. So if you're trying to find it and you can't, just ask yourself, what is Beth's job? Oh, she's the children's person. And then go to the youth services part of our website and you'll find it there. So here is that Resources for Librarians Serving Youth page. And really quickly at the top, I want to point out some links that actually aren't summer reading related, but could be useful for any youth services staff out there. So the first three links under professional development opportunities for youth services staff, you'll see 3 bullet points, and the first link goes to the Youth Services Training Opportunities page. This is where I post upcoming trainings. I have some archive trainings posted there as well as kind of a shortcut. And then near the bottom of that website, there are general resources for youth services library staff. The next bullet down, the next link is for the state library's events calendar. And that events calendar is where you will find all of our upcoming trainings, and you can register for them there, both in person and webinars. And then that last link is for the archive training website that I keep talking about, where this recording will be posted and where you will find the resource page linked as well. Okay, so going down to the next part of the page, that is where you'll find the summer reading stuff. And I'm going to make that a little bit bigger for you, so hopefully you can see it. So the link we're looking for is the one that says Resources for Summer Program Planning. There it is right there. And this is the web page that I will give you the link to, or that will be posted with the recording. Resources for Summer Program Planning. So it looks like this. This is the top of the page. Those tutorials that I've mentioned are listed near the top there. And as you continue down, you can see there's quite a few resources. So the programming resources, these are all things I'm going to talk about today, and much more. And then near the bottom, which you can see it's the very right-hand page there, that's the bottom of the website. Under Other Resources, you'll see the 2026 Font and Design Guide. I like to point that out because for those of you who like to make your own program publicity, if you want to match the fonts and colors that CSLP is using, you will find that information right there in that link. It is also in the online manual, but hopefully this will make it a little bit easier for you to find. And then at the very bottom are resources from past years. It says past program year resources. So if, for instance, you wanted to do Tales and Tales for winter reading, these links lead to the resources that I shared that year. So it's this website only for those past years. Okay, going back out to the youth services page. The next link down is summer program ideas for the current year. And so what I put there is when I do this training in person around the state in December and January every year, I ask folks to share their program ideas with me, and I collect those program ideas and then I post them to our website here. This is last year's program idea site. I haven't had a chance to add this year's yet, but I will be doing that soon. It's really primarily a browsable list that's divided roughly by age group. There's 4 different age groups. I did all ages or any age. I did preschool, school age, teen and tween, and adult. And then I just try to roughly divide them as closely as possible to the age group it seems the most appropriate for. The information that is shared there is as much information as is shared with me about the program during those workshops. And I include any links that were shared. I fill it out as much as possible so that it will hopefully make as much sense as possible. And then I pull out kind of a title so that hopefully it will catch your eye as you browse through it so you know basically what that particular program is all about. It is primarily a browsing list. It's something that will hopefully kind of inspire you or get your brain, get the juices flowing so you can come up with hopefully something a little new and different if that's what you're looking for. And reminder that you can always search within this web page. So if you're looking for a certain thing, you can hit Control F. And then you can type in a keyword and search for that. So if you already know what program you're looking for and you just maybe want to see how other people have done it or if there's additional resources for it, you could also utilize the list in that way. And then I also wanted to point out that we have past year's ideas posted here as well. We have quite a few years there. And these are really a great place to check for program ideas any time of year. So I hope that you will all kind of bookmark this, keep it in the back of your mind as something that does exist. And the next time you are feeling super stumped, you're just not sure, what programs you should do coming up, take a look at this list because there's probably some great stuff here that your colleagues around the state have already thought of. Okay, other resources. Back to the manual specifically, which I would be remiss if I did not share with you. This is what the program manual looks like this year. We've already discussed that you all have digital access, and I really, really encourage you to at least take a look at the manual. Just give it a little quick review at least, because I know it can be a little overwhelming. But at the very least, take a look at the table of contents. We're librarians, let's use that table of contents, right? Because I think you'll find a lot of great ideas here and they will save you from reinventing the wheel. Why expend the time and energy if you don't have to? In a lot of cases, they include printables and activity sheets too, or craft ideas. So it is worth checking out. And then you can also peruse the table of contents so you can do it by age, which is the first one that I had up there, if you just want to go to a certain age, but you can also peruse them by chapter. And the chapter titles are kind of themed in different areas of Unearth a Story. So I'm going to share those with you next. here are those chapter headings. So we've got Dino Play, which is kind of just general fun dino themed programs. We've got Fresh Dirt, which ventures a little bit more into things like geology, gardening, caves, soil. You could even go nature just generally here, probably if you wanted to. Digging for information. So this is a little bit more thinking of it more like research. So history, museums, genealogy, things like that. Paleontology and archaeology. So paleontology is dinosaurs and other life, past life on Earth. Archaeology is history and artifacts. And so those are the 5 that are most closely related to Unearth a Story. And then they've also added a Celebrating America 250 section with some ideas if you want to wrap that into your program this year. And then they wrap it up with some partnership program ideas that were shared with a partner that CSLP was working with. Another really great resource from CSLP is the Summer Symposium. I really hope that you've heard of the CSLP Summer Symposium by now. Hopefully a few of you out there attended, but if you didn't or if you've never heard of it, the symposium is a one-day virtual free national conference that focuses on summer reading. And it's CSLP puts it together. And they usually have a keynote. So this year was the author Dan Santat, who is out. He also happens to be the CSLP Summer Reading Champion for 2026. So that's really cool. He did a great session. He talked about how the path he took to becoming an artist and an author. And then 3 additional sessions usually. Usually is between 4 and 5 hours with breaks and things. This year, there were sessions that highlighted programs from the manual. There was one from the Detroit Zoo that presented ideas for science activities and programming. And then there was also a session on decorating. So if any of those things sound interesting to you, the recordings from this year's Summer Symposium, which took place in December, are now available. They are on the CSLP website. Here is a screenshot from that session about the manual where this is presented by Amanda Reich, and she is the manual editor. And so she's very familiar with what's in the manual. So she pulled out some of her favorite and highlighted individual ideas. So if you are someone who tends to be a little overwhelmed by how much is in the manual, this is really a nice session because it gives you a nice preview, 1 hour, sit down, let her tell you about it, of some of the best ideas. And as I mentioned, the Detroit Zoo did a session. They've shared their resources in a Google Drive. And so I've linked that Google Drive to our resource sheet, so you have access to those as well. In order to find the Summer Symposium recording, you will go to the CSLP website, and then under Summer Reading Resources, you go down to Professional Development. It's that 3rd one from the bottom there in that drop-down menu, Professional Development, and that will take you to the page where all of the recordings are posted. A few other resources. First of all, the National CSLP program does have their own Pinterest page. And they've already started posting some great ideas on there. So if you're a Pinterest person, definitely check it out. On social media, there are a few groups on Facebook that are worth joining. If you are on Facebook anyway and you're interested, it can be worth it for you if you want some place where you can go and see what other people are talking about, what they're sharing. You can ask your own questions. It tends to have lots of decorating pictures as we get closer to the summer, etc. So nice place to kind of crowdsource ideas and questions and see what lots of people all over the United States think. Now, just a heads up that it is a closed group that you will have to request to join. It will ask you a few questions, and these are designed primarily just to ensure that you are from a member state. And Indiana folks, you are in a member state, so just answer them honestly, and it shouldn't be a problem getting you admitted to the group. But if you ever have any issues, just let me know, and I can help you out with that. I also wanted to point out the Programming Librarian Interest Group, which is another good kind of year-round, very similar group that lets you share ideas, crowdsource answers to questions, and just generally to be inspired. So that one is run by ALA, and so you do have to request to join that one too, but you do not have to be an ALA member as far as I'm aware. If you need ideas for unearthed story themed books and how to use them, Teaching Books has put the book list that you will find in the CSLP manual. So CSLP provides you with book lists for all different ages with suggested titles. So Teaching Books takes those book lists, at least from birth through teen. It does not do adult books, unfortunately, but it does all the rest. And it puts them in their database so that there are resources attached to them. Now, if you are unfamiliar with Teaching Books, just a heads up that it's a database that is available for free for all Indiana residents through Indiana State Library's Inspire collection of databases. And its primary its reason for existence is to help teachers and librarians do just what it says, teach with books, right? So it's called Teaching Books because it helps you teach with books. Makes sense. And so there's all kinds of resources. There's book discussion questions, there's author interviews, there's book trailers, there's lots of other great stuff. There's an author name pronunciation guide where they actually have the authors pronounce their own names so you know that you're saying it right. Very handy. It's a nice one-stop shop. So definitely check that out if you're interested. And I have added a direct link to those on the resource sheet. Just a reminder, however, that you would have to be in Indiana in order to access it. If you have any issues, if you are from Indiana and you're having issues accessing anything from Inspire, including Teaching Books, you can contact the Inspire Help Desk and ask them for assistance, and they should be able to troubleshoot that for you. I also wanted to highlight this literary calendar that Teaching Books provides. It's got an idea for pretty much every day of the month. So if you're looking for program ideas, sometimes, who amongst us has not considered doing a National Popcorn Day program or that's World Ocean Day program. I'm just looking on this calendar because you can often get a lot of inspiration that way. And this calendar also includes a lot of author birthdays. So you can also do an author-based program potentially if you wanted to. Speaking of special days, could this be any more perfect? But Monday, June 1st is National Dinosaur Day. Not only is it June 1st, but it's also a Monday to boot. So hopefully, I imagine there will be a lot of Dinosaur Day kickoff parties. I hope. Some of you might be familiar with the StarNet STEM Activity Clearinghouse. I hope you are. But if you're not, it's a really great resource for STEM programs. There are full program descriptions included on a variety of different STEM topics. This database is run, at least in part, by the Space Science Institute, so the ideas tend to be fairly space and Earth heavy, but this is actually a great summer for that, especially if you wanted to do any geology programs, anything related to rocks and things that are underground. I'm sure you will find ideas in the STEM Activity Clearinghouse. All right, we are in the home stretch. Just a few more things. These are ideas and places that you can go for more information. If you want to kind of educate yourself about dinosaurs or geology or anything like that. Um, First of all, here is a list, but I'm going to go through them individually. First of all, the Library of Congress has an actual resource guide for dinosaurs and paleontology. And you know what? I trust them to know their stuff. I think the Library of Congress is a great, reliable resource. So this is an excellent place to start if you are looking for information on dinos and paleontology. The American Museum of Natural History has some activities and lesson plans about dinosaurs, and the National Museum of Natural History has some paleontology resources. The Field Museum up in Chicago has some dinosaur toolkit resources. All hopefully are familiar with their dinosaur skeleton zoo. They also have Maximo now. And then the Natural History Museum of London has a dino directory with more than 300 dinosaurs in it and facts about all of them. So if you're trying to build, again, if you're trying to build a program about any of these topics, these could be great places to start researching. A few more local connections. I'm going to skip down to the ones on the bottom first. The Falls of the Ohio Foundation, if you're in southern Indiana, I have been told that they do some educational outreach. So it's possible that they might be willing to come do something for you. If not, this is a great time for me to remind everyone to, especially if you're looking at geology, fossils, things like that, to reach out to your local state parks if you have one near you. Because oftentimes they are able and willing, depending on their, how they're doing, their staffing levels and things like that. And since summer can be kind of a busier time in the parks, but you can definitely check with them and they might be able to help you out with some sort of programming at your library also. And then in northern Indiana, did you know that we had a dinosaur museum here in Indiana? I sure did not until fairly recently. So it is a smaller museum. It is run by a husband and wife, I believe, and they have a lot of other stuff going on that property too. And I don't think it is inexpensive. So keep that in mind as well. But I have heard a few libraries up in northern Indiana are having success at getting them to come and do something at their library this summer. That being said, keep in mind that their capacity might be limited just based on the fact that it is a small museum. But it exists. I mean, that's pretty cool. Who knew? Okay, few more things. First of all, the Indiana State Museum has some good resources. They don't really have anything about dinosaurs because they don't have any dinosaur fossils there, but they do have other Indiana centric fossils, things that were actually found here, including mammoths, and then lots and lots of other fossils too. And I mostly wanted to highlight here, they have some education resources. They're not all going to apply to this year's theme, but they do have a rocks and minerals video that I wanted to highlight because I thought it was really well done. It talks about the different types of rocks that are, that exist, and then how they are formed. And specifically, they talk about what rocks you'll find in Indiana and how they were formed here. So if you're planning to do anything related to that, that's a great video to maybe show as kind of a baseline to inform your participants about what is available. And it was designed for elementary age kids, so it's very user friendly. Oh, and the Indiana State Museum will be doing a webinar for the state library in February. So keep an eye out for that if you're interested. The Children's Museum of Indianapolis also, of course, they have a whole dinosaur exhibit, a long-standing permanent dinosaur exhibit. So they have resources also under classroom resources that might be helpful to you. And the Indiana Geological and Water Survey, if you're looking for geology-related things, they have some lesson plans and activities, more learning lab and other informational, educational resources that might help you in doing some sort of program. I do want to mention, you can see there they have discovery trunks of the rocks of Indiana, but the last thing I checked, they were moving buildings and had temporarily shut down their trunk loaning service. But if that is something you're interested in, I recommend you keep an eye on it, because there's always a chance. I'm not sure what their schedule is for their move, but there's always a chance that they will become available during the spring and before summer starts. All right. Um, just a little bit more here. First of all, this is the Indiana State Library's performers and presenters list. I maintain this list. It's a very simple list. It just gives you the names and a link to their website. And all the people who are listed here are folks who have been recommended by Indiana Public Library staff. They are presenters who did a good enough job that the library decided to recommend them for this list. So I've divided them by general areas, authors, magicians, musicians, etc. And this is kind of what the list looks like. Like I said, very simple, just enough so it's easy to maintain for me. That being said, if you come across either a broken link or if you see someone on here who you had not a good experience with, I do want to know that. Please let me know. You can email me directly. My information's at the bottom of the page. Likewise, if you have anyone that you'd like to add to this list, there's a form on the bottom of that website as well, and this is all linked from the resource page. I do not take solicitations directly from the performers or presenters themselves. I really, I cannot personally vet them, nor can I endorse them as someone who works at the state. But I can relay, I can put them on here if someone else has told me that they do a good job. So that is just a brief overview of how this list works. And I always think of it, as a starting place. If you know you want an animal show, you can come here to see what a few of the different options are. Finally, let's just talk really quick. This isn't so much a resource as just something I want you to be aware of. Hopefully some of your libraries are meal sites for the summer food service program, but just in case you're not, I want to mention it. Summer food service program is run federally by the USDA, and it's administered here in Indiana by the Department of Education. And there's 2 levels you can participate in this program. So you can either be a sponsor, and those are the organizations that receive the funding, prepare the meals, distribute them. This is often a school, so most often you'll see schools are filling this role. And then there are meal sites, and that's what libraries most often do. So being a meal site mostly just requires that you provide them with a space and you clean up afterwards. And then a lot of libraries like to provide programming during that time. It's certainly not required, but you've got a captive audience right there. You might as well at least put your face in front of them so that they know who you are. Maybe you can start building relationships with them if some of them are not library patrons already. The summer food service program is available in communities with 50% or more free and reduced lunch participation. And so, I like to promote this. I think it's a really wonderful program because, first of all, by becoming a meal site, your library is providing a really important service to the kids in your area who might not have enough to eat in the summer. It could be that they depend on meals at school during the school year to keep them full because their families are, experiencing food insecurity, or maybe they're even experiencing homelessness. But either way, this is one way that libraries can help. You're directly helping the people in your community this way. But on the flip side, it also provides the library with a really great way to reach those kids you might not otherwise see. So it's really a win-win for a lot of reasons. I've linked to resources on that resource website if you want to learn more. And also keep in mind that if another organization in your community is already acting as a site, so maybe they don't need the library, consider reaching out to that organization if you haven't before, and maybe you can set up 1 or 2 visits this summer. Maybe you can set up a series of visits. Whatever level your library can sustain, even just once is great, because then you can introduce the kids to you, and hopefully they know, you're a friendly face if they ever need to go to the library. Okay, finally. Again, this one isn't a resource for you exactly, but it is a heads up that at the end of the summer next year, I will once again send out the CSLP end of summer survey. And the survey primarily looks for feedback on the program that year, but it does offer a space to report participation. So, it's not a required survey. It's very different from the annual survey that your directors fill out for the state. That report actually is required, and it goes to the Institute of Museum and Library Services eventually. But this one is from CSLP, and it is used by CSLP. That being said, even though it's not required, I would really appreciate it if one person from each library filled it out for me. A wider response really means more accurate information because our sample size is larger, right? So the more feedback I get, the more accurate the results are. And then also gives you an opportunity to share your thoughts. So keep that in mind, and it does not need to be your director who fills it out. It just needs to be, you can designate one person at your library to do it. You can do just the opinion questions if you don't want to report your numbers, but if you do report your numbers, that is also helpful. We're trying to get a good sample just to kind of see generally what participation is like across the country. So thank you in advance for doing that, and keep an eye on the listservs in early August for that survey. And that is it. Thank you so much for watching this webinar. I hope it's been helpful as you begin thinking about summer planning. Happy planning, and yeah, thank you so much.